Takže ešte raz dobrý deň. Začíname náš dnešný druhý panel, ktorý je venovaný bezpečnosti dodávok zemného plynu v našom regióne, teda krajín V4. Tomu zodpovedá aj zloženie našich panelistov. Takže dovolte mi, aby som privítal pána Gunnara Lovensena, člena predstavenstva spoločnosti Ustream, teda súčasť holdingu alebo štruktúry slovenského plynárenského priemyslu, pána Tomasa Klajfusa, výkonného riaditeľa Med4Gas, čo je súčasť českého Transgazu, teda z Českej republiky, pána Lajoša Betešiho, obchodného riaditeľa Maďargas Tranzit, pána Rafala Wittmana, riaditeľa divízie pre rozvoj a investície poľského gas systému a ešte jeden domáci účastník zo Slovenska, podpredseda predstavenstva spoločnosti Nafta, pán Michal Fiber. Panelisti budú vystupovať teda aj v tomto poradí, takže v prvom paneli sme sa dozvedeli, ako budeme žiť, čo nás čaká v roku 2030 alebo 2050 v európskej energetike. Tí z vás alebo tí z nás, ktoré budú mať to šťastie a sa dožijú, poprosím, potom dajte vedieť tým menej šťastným, že ako to fakt aj dopadlo. A teraz ideme k našej každodennej realite v plynárenstve. Takže pán Levensen, poprosím.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm proud to be able today to give you some insights from Ustream on the topic of security of supply, especially in Slovakia, but also in the Central European region we are part of. I would like to split my presentation more or less in 5 parts. In the first part, I would like to introduce a little bit Ustream to those of you who are not familiar with Ustream up to now. In the second part, I would like shortly to describe a little bit the market situation and the market position we are in. In the third part, I would like to come to the trigger of more or less the security of supply discussion. In the fourth part, I would like to show you a little bit about the current situation of the security of supply in Slovakia. And in the last and fifth part, I would like to talk a little bit about what Ustream is doing to support the security of supply situation, not only in Slovakia, but also in the region. Where do I have to point to that? Okay, this is going to work. So, the first part, just for you who are not so familiar with Ustream, where do we belong to and what is our business? Mr. Hirman already mentioned that we are part of the SPP group. You can see here on the slide. SPP is a fully integrated gas company, so to say, fully along the value chain of natural gas business. It includes not only trading and storage and exploration and production, and according to storage, my colleague Michael Fipper will talk about later to you. You see also the distribution business represented by SPB Distributia, and you see Ustream, and Ustream is responsible for the high pressure grid of transporting gas mainly and transiting the Slovakia from east to west. Now you see some facts and figures from 2011, not from 2012, because 2012 is still running, so we look a little bit in history in 2011. You can see that we are operating a transition grid of more than 2,000 kilometers that we have 4 compressor stations with roughly 1,000 megawatt of power. Still among those are the biggest one in Europe, which is in Velké Kapužany at the eastern border of Slovakia. You can see that we had a transmission volume in 2011 of around 74 billion cubic meter. As well, you can see that we took an annual turnover of roughly 800 million euros. And you also see that we had in 2011 around 1,000 employees. Now you may think, why do we need 1,000 employees? Background is very easy. The company Ustream is already and was already at the end of 2011 established or set up as an unbundled transmission system operator based on the European legislation. And that means that Ustream is full functioning on its own. It has all personnel to do its own business, not only on the technical side for the pipeline operation, but also, of course, regarding overheads. The only thing Ustream is still missing is the ownership in the transmission assets, which are still belonging to SPP, SPP is leasing those assets to Ustream. But as you all know, the transposition of the Third Energy Directive includes also that the TSO has to own, in whatever form he is organized, he has to own the transmission assets. So we are very positively looking forward because we are expecting to receive those ownership in the assets very soon. As you also might know, we are just currently waiting for the decision of the government to decide if we will have ownership unbundling or an ITO model, which is the Independent Transmission System Operator model. And we are quite positive that the state will decide or allow that we will become an ITO. But whatever the result is, in any case, the law requires us to file our application for certification as an ITO or as an unbundled TSO until the end of February next year. Now, since such process, the preparing of the filing needs a certain time, we very much hope that the transfer of the assets will be done, or even if it will not be done, but at least will be decided upon this year so that all things can be done properly to have the full and final filing possible at the end of February. So let me also mention one thing you have noticed before in this year. The transmission system we are operating is, of course, mainly transporting gas of Russian origin. And this is done, and the company is doing this since 40 years. In this year we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of transmission of Russian gas through Slovakia. In fact, the transmission started in December 1972, and there has been already an official celebration event, I think it was in September. So, my second point. What is our current market position? I think that's also no secret to the most of you because there had been a lot of discussion in the past in the press. If you look here and it's a little bit a mixture of the map of 2011 and a map of today. In the past, we have transported in 2011 around 75% of the Russian gas which is going to Western Europe. Now, mainly in the past, there were two big transmission systems, one through Ukraine, Slovakia, and Czechia going to the west, and the other one going through Poland, the Yamal system. And the capacity of those two systems was around 123 billion cubic meters per annum. A year ago, the first string of the Nord Stream pipeline started its operation, and this year the second string of the Nord Stream started its operation, so that the Nord Stream pipeline now has a capacity of 55 billion cubic meter per annum. If you then look at the discussion in the public about additional supply routes like South Stream, and those of you who have followed the press releases could have read that Gazprom now will start in the next months with the construction of South Stream, although it's probably not really 100% clear to everybody where South Stream in the end really will run through and along. But nevertheless, if they are planning and starting to build, there might be a new pipeline connection of the capacity of around 60 billion cubic meter per annum. Then one could also read that Gazprom is working on further enlargement of Nord Stream by possibly 2 additional lines, which easily can double the capacity of Nord Stream as of today. Then, of course, everybody of you know, and for quite a long time, about the Nabucco project, which is aiming at providing new sources of supply from Azerbaijan to Western Europe. The old Nabucco project, I think nobody any longer speaks about, but there is a combination of the TANAP project and what is now called Nabucco West, whereby also there we do not know if there really will be Nabucco West or if there will be the TAP pipeline running through southern Italy. So there's some uncertainty about this, but nevertheless also there is an additional capacity which is under discussion and might be one day be constructed. So you may ask yourself, if you look from the perspective of a transmission system operator as we are, what for do you need all these capacities? Of course, still it's clear that the indigenous production of gas within Europe will decline over the years, so there will be more import necessary. Of course, I think everybody of us hopes that the economy will catch up in the near future, although right currently it doesn't look like this, but hopefully it will, and that will create also demand. But nevertheless, I think from an investor's point of view, you always have to ask yourself if your investment will pay back. And of course you can ask if all these capacities one day will be really utilized. If not, it's up to the investor to decide if it's an intelligent investment or not. Of course, we all know also that there is political issues at the background, especially the discussion between Ukraine and Russia, and that is probably not always economically driven. But if you look at from an economic point of view, I think some decisions might go in a different direction. If you look at today's topic of security of supply, you might think, well, it's a good issue. The more pipelines, the better. The more pipelines there are, the more gas you can transport. I will leave this at the moment as a question and come back to that later. First, I would like to recap with you quickly what I think is more or less the main trigger of the whole security of supply discussion, which was, of course, the gas crisis in 2009. And I will do that quite quickly because I think also most of you are very much familiar with that. You remember that in 2009, in January, we had 12 days of no transmission volumes coming from the east into our system. We had 10 days during which the whole system was operated in an isolated mode, which meant there was no flow from east and no flow from the west into the system. During that period, we survived, or the country survived, mainly by the storages, the gas and the storages which were supplied to the market. And after 10 days, it was possible to start a reverse flow operation from Czechia, which you see on the right-hand side. There were roughly 5 billion cubic meters transported every day from Czechia to Slovakia. After that 12 days, the transportation from the east was commencing again, and the crisis was over, and we could operate the system again and restarted the normal operation. The impact in this region, quickly shown on this slide, which is showing which countries were mostly impacted and to what extent they suffered a reduction of supply in their whole gas supply. And what you can easily see is that the Central Eastern European region was hit the most. So that the question how to increase security of supply for this area is a crucial and a very important question. Now, in the aftermath of that crisis, we worked on the possibilities for physical reverse flows, and today we have the possibility of a reverse flow at the Czech border of up to 38 million cubic meters per day, and on the Austrian border of 18 million cubic meters per day, and that will be increased by July next year to roughly 24 billion cubic meters per day. So alone from those figures you see that Slovakia will be in a quite comfortable situation. And to show this, we look on this chart, and the number in the right bottom corner is the most important. This is the security of supply regulation, the so-called N-1 rule, which is set up by the European Commission, and it shows the calculation which is needed to be made to find out to what extent or to what's the security of supply situation in case the largest single infrastructure of a country doesn't work. And it takes into account all entry capacities, it takes into account these storage capacities, indigenous production if there's any, and it puts that into relation into the maximum daily consumption in the country, which here is for Slovakia the highest consumption ever on a daily basis in Slovakia. And as you can see, the result is still 218%, which means that the entry capacities we have, if we do not receive any gas from the eastern border anymore, is still much more than needed to supply this country. So from Slovakia's point of view, it's relieving. It even is something you could utilize for the region. Now, if we look at the region, we have to say that there is still a lack of development of the gas markets in the region, which is mainly based on, or has two basis facts. One is that there's still mainly only one source of supply for this region, which is Russian gas. And secondly, there is not, for the whole region, a real liquid spot market to trade gas. Now there are numerous reasons for it. Some of them I have highlighted here, and I would like to mention there's of course a lack of LNG terminal in that region or connected to that region. There are insufficient import routes for different supply sources. There's a lack of north-south corridor and transmission connections. And there's, of course, what I mentioned before, also there are more political issues, especially between Ukraine and Russia. So there are certain issues. Now, what is the agenda regarding this issue? In 2010, and that was, of course, triggered by the 2009 crisis, the EU Commission set up the so-called European infrastructure package, which contained certain priority projects, and one of those was or is the north-south corridor. And the idea of the north-south corridor is to have a connection between the Baltic Sea and the Mediterranean seas, and to improve the connection between the states which are within that region. For the North-South corridor, there have been identified around 43 projects of a common interest, and among those projects there are 2 projects including Slovakia. These 2 projects. One is the project of connecting the Slovakian transmission system to Hungary. I will come to that later. And one of them is a possible connection between the Slovak and the Polish system. Now the logic of it, you can also read on that chart. Basically the logic is that there is this possibility of connecting the LNG terminal, which is currently under construction at the Polish-Baltic coast. I don't dare to repeat the name of the location. I leave it to my colleague Raphael Wittmann. And in the south, to the unfortunately right now not existing and not being under construction, the possible LNG terminal in Kirk in Croatia. It also, of course, includes the idea of connecting to the Polish shale gas reserves, of which you all have read. It, of course, also has the idea to connecting storages and the like, so to make a lot more connection among the markets and to take another step to bring markets out of isolation. Here I'm showing a little bit to you about the Slovak-Hungarian interconnector, and my colleague from MGT most probably will also talk about that later on. This is a pipeline connection of around 113 kilometer length. The design capacity is 5 billion cubic meters per annum. The investment is roughly 150 million euros, and there's financing support by the EU to this. The start of operation is planned for the beginning of 2015, and it was a rather long story to come to this, and of course it's always not very easy. And you can see here that the discussion has started in 2009, and now we are in 2012. Nevertheless, and that's the most important thing, this project was strongly supported by the governments. There is an intergovernmental agreement between Slovakia and Hungary, which was signed in 2011, and what was also very important, we managed to sign the joint development agreement, which is the final investment agreement between MGT, which is the future owner and operator, or the owner of the pipeline, the Hungarian part, andUstream in May of this year. Since then, the procurement processes were done and they were finished, so that the project is on time, and we are very positive that the start-up date of January 2015 will be met. I have to mention here that, and that is always important from a shipper's point of view, that still in Hungary the regulation for this part of the pipeline is not in place. In Slovakia it is since long in place, so every shipper, and we have shippers who have booked the capacity on the Slovakian part of the system. On the Hungarian side, unfortunately, it's still not in place, which I hope, and I can only say I would like to urge our Hungarian friends to change that, because of course shippers need to know what the condition of the transmission are so that they can book the capacity, which is of course also helpful for the whole project to guarantee the return of the project. So I hope that on the Hungarian side now things in the next months will speed up so that shippers have more clarity what the economics of transporting the gas through this pipeline will be. Regarding the connection to Poland, we are not that far right now, but nevertheless I think we have made a very significant step, because a feasibility study which was launched at the beginning of the year is now coming to its final stage. And in that feasibility study, it was not only look for the best suiting routing of a pipeline, but it was also looking at environmental issues and at economic issues. So it will be a very good basis for the partners to, in the future, take a decision how to continue the project. And just recently I understood that there was also a meeting between the governments of Poland and of Slovakia, which are both supporting, oh sorry, yeah, but it's only 2 minutes, supporting this project. So that is on a positive track. So let me summarize finally. You see that from the Slovakian perspective, first of all, we have no real security of supply issue. From the regional perspective, we are working on some additional measures and we are investing money to even increase that security of supply for the region, which of course will then also be an additional bonus for Slovakia. And the North-South corridor has the idea of not being not to have rely on only one source of supply, and that is coming back to my question in the beginning. Is it good to rely only on one source? It's never good to rely only on one source. Even if there are different pipeline routes, it's still one and the same source. So having different sources is in any case increasing security of supply. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Lovensen for your presentation, and now we are going to Czech Republic. Net4Gas is going to open new pipeline, Gazela, and I think that we can see new information, we can hear new information about, not only about this project.
Yes, thank you very much.
Operate.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad to have the chance to speak to you here at this audience. Yes, we're talking about security of supply, and I think this is a topic, and Gunnar Löwensen mentioned it, I think it became very popular in 2009. I don't believe that it is so popular today anymore. I think today the Energiewende is an issue, and we have to think about how we deal with that, and I think the gas industry has to play a strong role in making that transaction. And if we see that the demand was forecasted for gas plants to grow the gas industry by 5% every year, and I think if we are lucky, I think there will be only a stable way forward, which also means on the way of security of supply, the topic is less dominant. But I think for that region here, it's still a dominant topic, and Net4Gas has a strategy where we have clearly focused on the first place of demand, and in the second case, based on the 2009 decisions, we also invested a lot of money and a lot of projects, and I would like to introduce this to you. So basically our strategy of Net4Gas is based on 3 pillars. So one pillar is, first of all, get the asset base right, and our company name Net4Gas, the 4 means also connected to 4 countries, to 4 markets. And so we have now projects which have shown that now this strategy is fulfilled. I will come to the Gazelle project later on in more detail. We have now, since the gas flows are going to change as of 1st of January significantly, also an asset base which is not meeting the requirements for the future to be an efficient operator anymore. So particularly the route between Landshut and Waldhaus, there will be plenty of capacity. We have an entry of 150 million cubic meters a day, and I think in future we see much less, and therefore also the asset base needs in total to be adjusted, and that is part of our asset development strategy. The second thing is, of course, building pipelines in a way that they are not necessarily work for this market, because we also have to see that the market in future will totally change, and it has already started to change. And if we are now thinking in terms of building connections, we should also think, is this really an efficient investment? I mean, first of all, infrastructure is not very much liked by many people. So from the ecological point of view and from the regional point of view, this investment should be strongly reconsidered. But at the same time also, if there is redundant capacities, should we use them more in the regional context? And I think this is also very important in terms of, for example, we have talked in the past about a pipeline between Czech Republic and Baumgarten. I think this is less necessary if you think in terms of a new market. So if we think about a new market, first of all, we need to think that we are not transporting gas from border to border and the gas is sold at the border. In the future, the gas will be sold at hubs. So that means the transportation contract directly has to consist of two elements. So from one hub is one country's TSO, and then the other hub has to be provided by the other TSO. So the transport product is a product which goes by two TSO products and should be sold in a single. So that is what we have also developed, and since 1st of October together with Oilstream, we have developed the gut truck product. So these are innovative solutions which are meeting the market demand. And finally, we talk about the market design. And the market design is something what the Commission now has clearly defined. So by 2014, they would like to see a merger of markets. They would like to see from today more than 30 markets. They would like to see no more than 10 markets. And one market which would suit very well together is, of course, Slovakia, Austria, and Czech Republic. This is a market which meets the requirements with various suppliers with 20 BCM as a minimum size. So that's the total volume of these three markets. And Net4Gas has in its strategy clearly committed to support that idea, and we are working also together with Oilstream and the Czech Baumgarten Hub in a working group together with the regulators to force that this is going to happen very soon, and Baumgarten shall be the single trading point. So if we're looking about the situation and how our grid looks like today, it's really a turntable of gas connecting the NCG and the gas pool market, which is very much tied in price convergency to the TTF, so Northwest European market, with the Central East European markets, which are not as liquid as we would like to have this, but at least we have now developed since 2009 with an investment of about 10 million euros, about 70 million reverse flow capacity, which we can bring into the country. But we can now, as of 1st of January, we even upgraded once more. We can bring 39 million cubic meters a day to Slovakia, which can be used either in Slovakia, Austria, or even exported further to Hungary. So, and it's also Gunnar Löwensen says now, the grid also in Slovakia now is ready to cope with this demand. And it means that 2009 crisis shall not repeat in the same form as it did before. So on top of this, we have connected ourselves to Poland in 2011, so that pipeline is now in operations. It still is lacking capacity in summertime, because in summertime we need to fill the storages which are on this pipeline. That means in winter time, and of course that's the most important time. Also the southern part of Poland is receiving gas from our grid, and the Polish shippers buy that from the German market or maybe Baumgarten as well. So these are the main projects which we developed as a result of the 2009 crisis and with the result of the EU packages, and they sponsored this with up to 50%. So first of all, we upgraded our system so that we could improve the reverse flow situation. Then we developed the Stork project, which went live, and finally we are now completing a pipeline between the storage, Tvrdonice, and our compressor station Břeclav, so which also now allows more capacity having it directly available in the transit grid. So the withdrawal rates are increasing by about 15 million cubic meters a day from that storage, and they can even be exported either to Poland or to Slovakia. So these are significant investments for security of supply. The Gazelle project is a project which is a result, of course, of Nord Stream. So we have reacted to that and offered to Gazprom Export that we are building a pipeline which connects the OPAL system here with the Megal system. And of course, these are replacing all the volumes which have been traditionally transited from the Ukraine to Slovakia through our grid. So the Gazelle project is a project of 166 kilometers. The total investment is 377 million euros. This was the easy part, to find the money for such a project. The hard part was to deal with 1,030 landowners and to get their permission and get the permission of municipalities. We achieved this early this year, And now the construction is in full swing, and we are now completing the last 50 wells until year end. And by year end, we are convinced that this pipeline will be connected, and then there will be full 30 BCM of capacity available from OPAL to the mega system in Bavaria, and some of the shippers even transport the gas to France. So this is a significant step forward, and it also now frees up capacities at this point which can be utilized in case of a crisis or even for regular flows to be delivered to Slovakia and Baumgarten. On top of this, in our strategy, we saw that there is a higher demand, and it was also mentioned there is a discussion from the EU to talk about the North-South corridor. So that is the Moravia project, since we have it connected here, and I mentioned that we can only transport gas in winter times. That means the capacity of this pipeline is even not sufficient to utilize full capacity of the storages which are in Moravia located. So if we want to increase this capacity, then we have to invest another 250 million euros. We have started doing that, so we are in a pre-feasibility stage. Going further than only feasibility, we are also doing the basic engineering, the routing study, and we have up to date invested already 3.5 million euros into that project, which then later can be used to be connected even to the middle part or the northern part of Poland, allowing the Polish market to buy gas in Baumgarten or even to export gas to the Czech and Slovak and Austrian market. But if we are, this is the details about the project, but because of time constraints, I think it's very short. But if we're talking about markets in the future, if we're talking about this market region, in the first place, we are currently discussing the 3 countries here, but I'm sure that Hungary shall follow very quickly because it's also fully connected, particularly after the pipeline has been completed between the Slovak market and the Austrian market is already connected. So well, let's start talking about this. What would that mean? It would mean to merge markets to be congestion-free. Because if there's congestion between the markets, then the gas cannot be freely allocated between an entry and an exit region. So currently there is congestion on the pipeline between Baumgarten and Oberkappeln to Germany in both directions. So that means here there is enough gas for everybody, but there's not enough gas to fully trade freely between NCG and Baumgarten, and at the same point it's the same between Czech Republic and Austria. So what we would need is we need a second pipeline in order to freely transport gas, and that would be a pipeline between the Czech grid and the point of Oberkappeln, which is the border point where the WAC pipeline is crossing to Germany. So that short pipeline of roughly 100 kilometers with an investment of maybe 120 million euros would not only enable the market, but it would also free up the capacity on WAC, which is now fully utilized, because we know that from Landshut to Whitehouse there's plenty of capacity. And before investing in Austria into such pipeline, we should think about efficient investment. This investment would be more than 300 million euros, whereas this investment only is 100 million euros. And between Bratislava and Landshut, we have sufficient pipeline capacity available, so there's no extra capacity needed. And for shippers in the future, in a market of this feature, there would be an entry, for example, from Velké Kapošany and an exit at the border to Germany, to Austria. So everything which will be seen internally today will be out. So shippers do not book single pipelines, they only book an entry and an exit. And the exit can either be in one of those countries, or it can be an exit into the next market zone. The next market zone will then at that point be NCG, for example. So that is what we see as a regional development, and we have also with the Commission and NSOC, we have a group where the TSOs are sitting together, and it's called the Regional Development Plan, which looks exactly at capacities which are available and which capacities are needed for the next years. And these capacities which we are building, allowing also the market to go into the direction which is needed. And in a later stage, of course, Poland can be connected. Poland is connected, but it will be very hard because the southern part of Poland today is not well connected with the Czech Republic. So there is a lot of congestion even for foreseeable future, and the minimum which would be needed would be the full completion of a north-south corridor, which of course takes time and takes a lot of investment. So what we can foresee is about in 3 to 4 years from now, we see a liquid Baumgarten hub being the single trading point for those 3 markets, and maybe including Hungary when they also want to join that business. So, and what we have done as a first part, we talked about this as innovative solutions. We have offered the Gatrak product, which is a product which TSOs offer. It's like a flight booking. You click and book, and you make with one single booking 2 TSO routes. So you go, for example, from the gas pool to the Czech market by having capacity in one single contract from ONTRAS and the capacity from Net4Gas, for example. Or you have from Net4Gas the capacity together with Oilstream to go to Baumgarten. The shippers have the choice. They can either book the same capacity with Oilstream, if they like, for example, Slovak law more, or the terms and conditions, or the euro. If they like the Czech law more, if they like the Czech crown more, they can do the same booking with Net4Gas. So that is basically the product, and what we also now would like to complete is in that area having one single booking, maybe from Gazpool or NCG down to Baumgarten, because that is actually what the shippers want. They don't necessarily want to stop at every single point. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what we have done as Net4Gas in our strategy, how we see the strategy, how we see the market forward, and we believe that the security of supply at this given point in time is not an issue for the future anymore. I think now the gas industry has to focus how we will have solutions for a smart and payable energy mix. And I think this is the main issue these days, when you see in new modern power plants, gas-fired power plants are not in operation at all because the gas price is not meeting the requirements. And I think the way to a CO2-free world has to go via gas, and I think now it's also the role of TSOs to support that ideas. One of those ideas are, of course, power to gas. We can be a storage with hydrogen in our grid. These are the next steps, and I think this is our commitment which we want to take. Security of supply, we believe, for the time being, can be ticked off. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. And now from Czech Republic we are going to our south neighbor, to Hungary.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank the opportunity of being invited to the Slovakian 6th Energy Conference. We would like to present as being challenged by Mr. Löwensen and being a part of the north and south corridor, presenting the project stages. We would like to present where we are. We would like to see how does it fit to the overall project in Europe, and of course a couple of points about the project details, where we are, what have we done from technical perspective, and what we have done in terms of from regulatory and legislative changes as well, in order to be able to fulfill the customer requirements, and of course a few points on the project development. So first of all, as already been highlighted from the first part as well of the first panel, which has been presented, that it is very, very important for Europe, the overall connections of the countries. The critical parts is, Mr. Löwensen already mentioned, that is important to see not just the security of supply, which is sometimes some people is always reflecting that is different sources, but as we've seen from 2009, it is very important the security of the routes as well. It could happen as well that is any time that is, even though it could come from the same Russian source, the gas, but we need to make sure this Russian gas are flowing through through different routes in case there is as an interruption either on the Ukrainian side or any directions. So where we are defined the importance of this north-south corridor is not only the security of the supply, so source of supply, but it's the route is as much as highly important as well. I think it's been one of the severely impacted country was Slovakia in 2009, where it's been presented the 12 days interruption was no, had to be reduced the consumption of the customers in these 12 days. I think it's very important as well for Slovakia, this interconnectivity to the other countries. And as we've seen, there are already developments from EU stream. There is a reverse flow coming from Czech Republic, but we do believe that there is an interconnection to Hungary, where Slovakia will have a direct connection to through either to different sources of supplies like LNG from Croatia, from Krk Island, or different directions of South Stream or Nabucco. But of course, important as well to have a connection to the storages as well, which we already seen that sufficient storages in Austria and in other countries. But it's very important to have a connection to Slovakia, to the Hungarian storage, where we have at least 6 BCM storage facilities. The other, of course, important element as well that is which is going to come from the Polish LNG terminals and the shale gas access as well, which can go down through Hungary to Serbia and to Bulgaria as well. Bulgaria was the second most severely impacted in the Central Eastern European countries of the Ukrainian-Russian gas crisis. So I think it's very, very important this north and south corridor being built, and strategically important for all the countries which are within this north-south corridor, that Slovakia, Hungary, both Czech Republic as well, but the flow continually goes through to the south, to Serbia, Croatia, and to Bulgaria. So from strategic perspective, I think it's very important the pipeline. Just a few points which I'd like to mention to you on this project, and that's why it's being set up as part of the strategically important pipeline is the Slovakian-Hungarian interconnector is Hungarian gas transit called Magyar Gas Transit, is being established in 2012 January, and it's basically being established this company originally of building up these pipelines. The ownership is between the MVM, the electricity transmitter of Hungary, and Hungarian Investment Bank, which is jointly owner of these companies. I think is the majority of the critical point of the main purpose of this project is to build up this pipeline as being planned, and of course transparently selling its capacities through the shippers. The important part as well that is it is a European Union support, 30 million euro project, which is going to be an important element of the project financing. I will come to the right bottom side more details of the pipeline, but basically it's a 5 BCM annual consumption pipeline which is going to be planned to be built. For the Hungarian side is 94 kilometer and 21 kilometer for the Slovakian side, and it is going to be both directions, so it's possible for reverse flow as well, not just from Slovakia to Hungary, but from Hungary to Slovakia as well. As we know, it is in this current environment, it is very important, not just because of the European legislations should enforcing these pipelines and cross interconnections to being both directions with reverse flows, but it's important as well that in current days the sources of supplies can change daily, and the customer requirements could change as well, even on a daily level. So if I move to more to the what we have done from the legislative perspective, especially for the Hungarian side, that is, you have to know that is because this is the second Hungarian TSO, which is established in Hungary. It is very important that the local legislation should be fulfilled as well according to these to the setup of these companies as well. So what we are currently having is the Hungarian government is very much committed to building up this pipeline by the given framework as defined. So the legislations are in the direction of changing it in a way that is by 2013, early 13, we would need to be fulfilled as a multi-TSO operator, being defined operating between the TSOs and being defined that is fostering the traders to be operating on this pipeline. The expected timing of this change of these legislations is early 2013. We expect early decisions, as been mentioned as well in the earlier slide as well. The Hungarian gas hub is intended to start January 2013, so early 2013. This is as well fostering the legislative changes as well. We are on a good track. I have to report that to you, that the legislations are going to be made or expected to be made as early as possible. That is going to be allowing for the shippers, as I already mentioned, possibilities of transmitting gas from Slovakia to Hungary or vice versa from Hungary to Slovakia as well. It is going to enable the shippers to have access more storages as well. So we have the 6 BCM storage facilities as well. There is going to be an access to the Central European Gas Hub, which is called CJEX, which is a Hungarian-based newly set up hub, which is going to be allowing traders to come and trading between the countries as well. The pipe itself, as mentioned, 94 kilometers of length in Hungary and 21 kilometer length in Slovakian side. It is expected to be delivering 5 BCM. I think I have to mention that it is very, very important for Hungary as well that the mostly utilized pipeline, which is currently in Europe, is and it's shown every time on the European map, red. It's the Moson-Haag entry capacity to Hungary. So the total consumption of Hungary is between 11 to 15 BCM. Of course, depends on the economical situations. But it's, as you see, the connection of Hungary to the Western Europe is very limited. So it's very important this pipeline to be being built on time, not just from Slovakian or from Hungarian perspective, but from the regional perspective. Of course, we're crossing 32 roads, highways, railways. So the project is started in 1st of January. The company as well. The whole company is working very heavy on the investment and on the plannings as well. We already have signed contract, the EPC contracts with our suppliers. As we say that the planning is ongoing, we already have only remaining 3 kilometers of continuous planning is still missing, but the rest of the 94 kilometers, so 90 kilometers is already planned and is already being communicated to the major stakeholders. It is strategically important for Hungary, so it's from regulatory and legislative perspective as well, ongoing. Early January, as I mentioned, going to make a change. The construction is going to expect to start 2013. It's already been started up piling up the pipes. By the end of December, 27 kilometer pipes are already being ordered, and it's reported last week it's on track. So the production of the pipes, the delivery of the pipes is going to be by end of December 27. So 1/3 is already going to be delivered, which is, I think, is a great achievement. The operational start is going to be 2014 July. So expected start of this testing of the pipes, and the operability is starting in 2015, early 2015, but late 2014. And just as a closing, I'd like to say that thank you very much for your attention. I hope I managed to make secure that this pipeline is going to be delivered on time. In case you have more questions, and just because of the time cautious, I'd like to ask you if you have any questions on through this. I would like to happy to answer to your questions. Thank you.
Köszönöm szépen. Thank you very much for very optimistic presentation about our project, our pipeline between Slovakia and Hungary. I am very happy because I had opportunity to be in time. I cooperate with previous our Slovak government and to be in the moment of sign of agreement between governments, between Slovak and Hungarian governments, and I am very happy that this project is going to practical realization, not from idea to really to engineering works. Now we are going from Hungary to north to Poland, to Baltic coast, to Svinoušte.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to this conference. I'm glad to have this opportunity to present the northern corner of this north-south corridor, and I hope that after this presentation you all will have the impression that all the TSOs are sharing more or less similar view and similar ideas how to integrate the market and how to increase the security of supply. Congratulations for the pronouncing the Świnoujście was almost perfect. So, that's okay. But I will go through the presentation, and I hope the presentation will show up in a second. And during my presentation, I'd like to present a few slides, maybe a few information about gas system, who we are and where we are operating, and what we are doing currently. And then, of course, just a short story about our investment plans and our investment activities in Poland, and not only for Poland but also for the region. So gas system as the transmission system operator of the entire Polish gas transmission system. We were established in 2004 as the result of the European legislation. For the first year we were acting as the daughter company of the Polish oil and gas company, and then in 2005 we became a fully independent TSO. Initially, similar like Ustream, we found the assets, but the assets have been transferred to gas system for the recent years, so now we actually not only operate but also own the entire transmission system, domestic transmission system. Because we are also the operator of the Yamal pipeline, which is the dark blue, and the thick one. Oh, sorry for this. This is the Yamal pipeline, and we are not the owner but the operator of this pipeline. So we can say we operate all the pipelines, but we don't own all of them. The domestic transmission system has around 10,000 kilometers of high-pressure transmission pipelines. On the top of this, we have nearly 700 of the Yamal pipeline. In the domestic system, we have 14 compressor stations, and additional 5, of course, the largest ones are installed on the Yamal pipeline. Then we have 56 main gas supply nodes and nearly 1,000 exit points to the industrial customers directly connected to our system, and also to the distribution system operators. Our company employs more than 2,000 people. We are organized in 7 places geographically, the headquarters in Warsaw and 6 branch offices around Poland. In 2010, the Polish president of the regulatory authority in Poland appointed gas system as the operator, as the independent system operator, so one of the 3 acceptable models for the Yamal Europe transit pipeline. And since then we've been operating this pipeline and have been lucky without interruption of supplies. So hopefully also satisfying our customers, our clients in terms of the gas transmission services that we are providing to them. In 2008, we also became the sole owner of the Polish LNG, a company which was originally established by Polish Oil and Gas Company with the aim to prepare and construct the LNG terminal in Poland. But in 2008, there was some decisions taken that the terminal should be developed by gas system, and since then we are the owner, and the company seems to be doing quite well with Polish LNG. And what is most important, the company is actually constructing the LNG terminal, so I think there's no distortion from the original ideas about this company. Some of the factors that make us thinking about the future is, of course, how the future gas market will look like. And we are looking closely and very carefully at the Polish gas market. And for many years, the consumption of gas in Poland was at a rather stable level and amounted to some 14-15 billion cubic meters a year. But recently, we have observed the gradual growth of the gas consumption. What is mainly being observed by the increase of the winter peak demand. And last year, our daily peak demand amounted more than 70 million cubic meters a day. It was the highest ever, and we foresee that in the future this may also grow even above 100 million cubic meters a day. And the growth may mainly be caused by the power sector. Currently, only 3% of electricity in Poland is produced based on the natural gas. We believe there is some space for the gas-fired power plants, particularly that most of the existing power plants, which are coal-based, need to be replaced, and very soon, because they are now 40-50 years old, and they actually they cannot be operated anymore. So this leaves some room for the gas-fired power plants, and if this happens, then of course we will need to invest into entry capacities, into transmission capacities in Poland, just to be able to meet the growing demand for the capacity and for the gas deliveries. The other factors which, of course, are very important are the generally shared European ideas about the harmonized internal European energy market, which should be ideally characterized by the high level of integration, which we understand, of course, as the development of the well-functioning infrastructure, transmission infrastructure between the countries, between the markets. Of course, the diversified supply sources and routes, which will actually enable the many actors to deliver gas from wherever at different competitive prices. Of course, the other issue is reliable and stable supplies to customers. We all are aware of the recent experiences in 2009, the last big interruption in the gas crisis, and which actually we suffered. All of them, all of the countries in the region suffered from the crisis in 2009. So this shouldn't happen anymore. And of course, the important issues will be the well-functioning tools and mechanisms enhancing the competition in the natural gas. Of course, this means the gas exchanges, and this mechanism are actually being established in the Czech Republic, in Slovakia, and in Hungary. We heard that it's going to be launched early next year. In Poland, it's also the case. We'll have the gas exchange functioning starting 1st January 2013. The other issues, of course, the characteristics of the market are the efficient utilization of the infrastructure assets, of course, existing assets, and also the new assets. So the new pipelines which will be established in the region should not remain empty. They should be utilized by the shippers. Of course, intensive growth and the low carbon source of energy are also important crucial factors. Now, how do we plan to approach it as gas system, or how we are doing this? Of course, the important element is the infrastructure, and on the top is, of course, the infrastructure which allows us to get the access to the sources of gas, to the external sources of gas. And first of all is the LNG terminal, which is the I would call flagship project currently. the LNG terminal, which is located in Świnoujście, in the northwestern part of Poland, and the terminal is currently under construction and should be in operation as early as 2014, being able to deliver 5 billion cubic meters a year of gas starting from 2014. The other project, which is an interesting project, is the Baltic Pipe, which was the idea originally aimed at delivery of the North Sea gas through Denmark to Poland. Now there's no parties interested in delivering gas from the North Sea, so we keep the project now alive, and we are planning this, but we are not mostly focused on this. I mean, this is one of the side projects currently just not of the highest importance. Then we have the interconnections which are already in operation. The interconnector with Czech Republic, which was already mentioned by Thomas Lifus in Cieszyn. And this is the project that was launched in 2011 as now delivering gas quite intensively, and based on the experience we have so far, we can say that if we had more capacity, it would have been utilized well. So that's why we have decided to work together with Net4Gas on the new project, which we call Stroke 2, however, and which could actually give more capacity on the border between Poland and the Czech Republic. Now we have Polish and German interconnector in Lasów, which is southwestern part of Poland. The first interconnector was launched in 2001, as far as I remember, and last year we managed to increase the capacity by 50%. Now the Lasów interconnector is able to import 1.5 billion cubic meters a year. The new interconnector projects, the green ones in the green box, these are the Polish-Lithuanian interconnector. So as Poland, we have this privilege to belong to two market areas. One is this Central and Eastern Europe, and the other is also the Baltic market area. So that's why we are working together with our Lithuanian colleagues on the potential interconnector between Poland and Lithuania, which will deliver the capacity of the gas to the Baltic states, which is Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. The Polish-Slovakian interconnector already mentioned by Gunnar Levinson. So that's the project in the southeastern part of Poland. The project which is now at the feasibility study phase. We managed to prepare the business case analysis. We found some rationale behind the project, so we believe that the project might be valuable for the region, and that's why I decided to go for the feasibility study. And next year, hopefully, we'll make some further decisions regarding this project. And the last box, this is the box which refers to the existing interconnection between the Polish and German system on the Yamal pipeline. So we are working together with Gascade, the operator of the German system, on developing some products available at the Malmö station and the Malmö metering station, and we managed to provide the virtual reverse flow services at the Malmö station. So altogether, in 2011 we managed to complete a project which gave us additionally 30 increase of the import capacity by 30%. So what we can see when we entered into 2011, we had something like 9% import capacity on the German border, and the rest of this was delivered from Russia, or from the east, as we call it. In 2012, now we have a more diversified supply portfolio. We can deliver gas from Germany, from Czech Republic, and of course part of this still must be delivered from Russia. The LNG terminal, just very shortly, the regasification capacity originally planned 5 billion cubic meters a year, and foreseen to be in operation in 2014. There's a potential to expand the capacity, regasification capacity, up to 7.5 billion cubic meters a year if it is needed by the market. The terminal will be prepared for unloading the the almost largest LNG vessels which are sailing on the seas and the oceans currently. So so these are the Q-Flex type vessels. Those are quite big ones, and you can see also technical characteristics. The length of the vessel is 300 meters, and the geometrical capacity is 216,000 cubic meters, so quite a large ones. The storage on shore storage. We are constructing 2 LNG storage tanks. Each tank has 160,000 cubic meters capacity. There's a space reservation for the third storage tank, which will be needed if the regasification capacity is to be expanded. Then, of course, pipeline we need because the terminal is located on the shore, on the coastline, and we of course don't have the transmission system developed down there. We need to construct 80 kilometers of the high pressure pipeline, which will have 800 millimeter diameter and 84 bars the operating pressure. The terminal will also be prepared for the unloading the LNG to the trucks, and the trucks can actually deliver the LNG in the liquid form to the places, to the remote markets, to the places where there are no pipelines, but the gas is used directly as the LNG, which is regasified to the industrial installations. And the cost, what is important, the cost of the LNG terminal amounts on 700 million euro, and the contract with the EPC contractor amounts 550 million euro, roughly. The organizational setup, the LNG terminal is quite a complex project. There are 4 parties involved, or 4 companies involved in the project. There's one institution which is responsible for development of the breakwater. This is almost 3 kilometers of the breakwater, which will protect the vessels berthing at the terminal. And this is the Maritime Authority, which is responsible for this part of the investment. Then we have the unloading jetty, which is more or less here. And this is the Harbor Authority, which is responsible for development of the jetty. Then we have Polish LNG, our daughter company, which is responsible for development of this onshore part of the terminal, and also for the unloading lines and unloading arms, which will be located here at the jetty. And last, we have gas system, which is responsible for the development of the connecting pipeline to the system. And of course, we are also the company which is responsible for the coordination of the entire project, just to make sure that it will be complete and in operation according to the time schedule. Just a few pictures from the construction site. So we can see the breakwater. The breakwater is almost finished now, so 3 kilometers of breakwater has been constructed and delivered to Polish LNG. Then we have the pictures from the onshore construction site. You see the concrete tanks, the LNG tanks are already erected. So we have the walls erected. We have the roof, the mid-area roof, which is already placed on the top, and now the concrete will be actually put on the roof when the piping, necessary piping and everything is installed on the top. Then it will be of course put with concrete, and this will be solid concrete structure in the end of the day. So we can see terminal is progressing. Now we also have the another part of the investment program, which is very important. So this is the development of the internal transmission system. You can see the yellow pipes, yellow pipelines. They are already under construction. So these are the elements of the early investment program, which was prepared by Gas System between 2007 and 2009. And the pipelines are already contracted now. The pipes are delivered, and the contractors are actually welding and working on the pipelines. So these pipelines are to be ready in 2014, and there's about 1,000 kilometers of pipelines which will be completed by the end of 2014. The green lines, these stand for the new development program, which we call in Gas System North-South Interconnection Program, and this is of course all the pipelines which are located on the line north-south, and they are connected to the new Czech connector and also to new Polish-Slovakian interconnector. These pipelines should be ready in 2017, 2018, and now they will be. We are going to launch the tenders for the engineering work for these pipelines. And the blue lines, these are the planned pipelines, so this is something like the closing of the entire investment program on the east. So this will be development of some pipelines on the eastern part of Poland and also the interconnector between Poland and Lithuania. How much we are going to spend on it? So our investment program until 2014 amounts nearly 2 billion euros. This includes also the LNG terminal. And for the next years, for the next coming years, we foresee that more than 2 billion euros should be spent just to have the investment program completed. The financing sources for the current investment program are, of course, our own financing, but we also get support from the European Commission, from the European funds, and we also take some loans from the banks. So there's the European Investment Bank and also the European Bank for the Regional Development. And we believe that this should also be, this sources of financing of the infrastructure development should also be available for the next investment program, although we are a little bit concerned with the results of the last Brussels debate on the budget. So we are looking very, very carefully and with a little concern about it. The other aspect which is also important is the underground gas storage. And what we can see, the neighboring countries have quite significantly developed storage capacities, while Poland has only 12% of the annual consumption covered by the storages. So it means that there is still more space and some space left for the development of the storages. The storages can be developed in Poland, but they also can be developed somewhere else in the neighboring countries, and they can be actually, the capacities could be provided to the Polish customers, of course, if there are the interconnectors with the sufficient capacities. The other elements, of course, apart from the infrastructure development, is the market development, and we are quite the active player on the Polish market, and we are working very closely with the regulator, with the Ministry of Economy, which is responsible for establishing the new gas law. We are in the close cooperation with the gas shippers and trying to address the needs and the expectations as regards the transportation services. And we are also in close relations with the Polish Power Exchange, which has the ambitions to become the Polish Gas Exchange as well. And now what we have is the new network code, which was approved in July 2012 this year, and originally it was actually meant to be in force starting from 1st December 2012, but it has recently been postponed by the President of the Energy Regulatory Authority, and the code will actually be binding starting 1st January 2013. And the code introduces a number of changes on the Polish gas market, and actually establishes the virtual trading point. So, with regards to the virtual trading point, Poland was a little bit behind our colleagues from Czech Republic and Slovakia. But starting 1st January 2013, we'll have the virtual trading point in operation in Poland. The network code also implements some capacity allocation mechanism and balancing rules, which are now foreseen by the ENTSOG organization in the joint, the common network codes, which will be binding in 2015. So we have implemented it already. The new framework agreements are available now for these shippers. So there's something new form of contracting the capacity in Polish system. The auctions as the capacity allocation mechanism, this is new in Poland, so we are going to implement auctions in the spring next year. And we also offer bundled product to our shippers. We have recently launched a project with the ONTRAS the operator of the system in Germany. And next year, in the summer next year, we are going to launch the first auction of the bundled capacity at Václav interconnection point. And we hope that there will be many interesting experiences for us, and also many interested shippers to book the capacity. The other issues which are included in the code are the market-based balancing, and also new arrangements and new contracts with the distribution system operators. So there's a completely new environment for the Polish gas market. And all this just to integrate the region, integrate the market, and provide more security of supply, more comfort and better comfort for the shippers, for the actors which are playing on this regional market, and also for the customers who are, at the end of the day, actually using the gas and paying their bills, and they wouldn't like to be concerned about the interruptions or any of the problems with the gas supplies. One of the interesting comparisons of the prices which are found actually shows that the gas price in the long-term contracts, the gas price for Poland under the long-term contracts is one of the highest, at least in this group of the countries. So when we see the Greece, if the Greece is the 100%, we are on the third position. What is interesting, Hungary is also one of the leaders of this group, so it means actually that both Poland and Hungary need the infrastructure just to be able to lower the prices of gas, which is bought for the markets. The short summary, so what we see, of course, integrated European energy market. This is the future. We'll not avoid it. So actually, the companies which think they can get away with this should actually just reconsider their strategies and adjust to the future trends. The TSOs from the region have already laid some first foundations for the market integration. So the Czech and Slovakian reverse flow is one of the investments, one of the foundations. The Polish-Czech interconnector, the infrastructure, which also proved to be very efficient and very required by the market. The Slovakian and Hungarian interconnector, now being constructed, is also one of the essential elements of the integration. We have also, as TSOs, defined a number of projects, the future projects, which will further enhance the process of the market integration. But of course, the projects, in order to be implemented, need certain support, and the support should come not only from the TSOs, not from the operators, but also from the different institutions and the different authorities which are responsible for the investment processes. And so one of the elements which is crucial is, of course, the clearly defined energy policy. I mean, in Poland we had a certain problem because as a TSO we are observing the energy policy. We see the Minister of Economy prepares certain scenarios which foresee that the coal will be still the fundamental energy source for Poland, but the market actually shows that the gas is also attractive, and the clients and the shippers and also the power producers, they come to us and they want to have the connection to the transmission system, and they want to have the gas delivered to their facilities. So we need some clear signals from the political level. What is the planned, let's say, energy mix foreseen for the country within the foreseeable future? Of course, the regional coordination, regional dialogue is also an important issue. So we see that P4 platform, which is the Visegrad countries platform, is quite a useful tool, and also seems to be quite adequate mechanism for establishing a regional dialogue. Stable and predictable regulatory regimes which will incentivize investment. So at least in the end of the day, we as the operator, we should also make some profits on our activity. Harmonized market rules, which provide the regional level playing field. So this is what Thomas Liefers said. Everything will be possible if we have more or less harmonized rules here in the region, so the gas can be actually booked in one country and delivered to the other country without being troubled by booking the capacities in the individual pipes. And the last but not least, the engineering and construction regulations should actually be adopted or should be changed in order to streamline the investment process. As Thomas said, he had to deal with 1,030 landowners on this 150-kilometer pipeline. We, in Poland, just for this development program, we have more than 10 or 15,000 landowners that we have to deal with them, and it's not really easy. So if you want to have those pipelines in place, in operation, we need to concentrate on a better law which will actually support the development of this crucial infrastructure. Thank you for now, and sorry for extending the time a little bit, but I hope that, that you have the impression that we as TSOs more or less share the same view and vision of how the market should look like in this region.
Thank you very much. Now we are going back to home, and we are going from pipelines and LNG terminals to gas storages, I think. Mr. Fieber, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Being aware that it is very late, yes, as storage operators, we know that it is very important to highlight security of supply. That's why we were prepared for today. I have 20 slides with me. But we are also customer-oriented and flexible, so I will only show you 3 of them. This one is the first I want to show you. We spoke a lot already today about the gas crisis 2009 because everybody, at least in Slovakia, realized that there was a problem with gas supply. Even my mom was calling from Germany and was asking when she was visiting us whether she should bring an electric heater to us. In my eyes, actually, the gas crisis 2012, which is not known as gas crisis, was even more fundamental. Because the reason for this crisis 2012 was not that there was pipeline capacity missing between Russia and Europe, but there was no gas in Russia. It was just so cold in Russia that with minus 40 degrees, I can fully understand the Russians that they were hesitating to deliver the gas to Europe, but still also in Europe we had some minus 20 degrees, and how to manage the situation. Actually, even a Nord Stream 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 wouldn't have helped us. The problem was much more fundamental. In a crisis situation, you really realize on what you can rely on. Also with naphtha, we realized that there was minus 20 degrees at our premises. And we also had 2 meters of snow. Nevertheless, you can see in the diagram from the left that in the middle of the crisis, we again checked with our geologists and our technical people whether it would be possible to deliver something on top what we had promised. And you can see these little red bars. Actually, we managed to do so. So in the middle of the crisis 2012, naphtha was able to deliver even more than was contracted. And by that, within 4 years, we had now the second time the experience that the majority of the Slovak heating system was relying on our storages. This gives us a certain feeling of national pride, but not a feeling of comfort. I had the feeling with the presentations we saw before that there's a certain consensus to solve the situation with the so-called North-South corridor. So there will be, and I think that's a good idea, a pipeline connection which will connect the Baltic Sea with the area. So with the possibility to either take the gas from Nord Stream or from South Stream or from Nabucco or from TAP or from wherever it will be available, to link these sources and to build out of that a kind of bus bar for Europe, so that whenever from any of these sources gas is available, it will be there, and this bus bar will even be backed with LNG. This sounds like a very good solution. And on top of that, the nice story is that the existing storages, and that's not only naphtha, I mean, there are a lot of storages in this region around, will again back also this solution. So from that perspective, we can be sure that this kind of solution will really improve security of supply for the gas business. There's one key difference which I also want to highlight between the pipeline business and the storage business. When the pipeline business, actually, if you want to bring gas from Slovakia to Czech Republic, you have to speak with Ustream and you have to speak with Net4Gas. That's a national monopoly. If you want to store gas in Slovakia and in the Baumgarten region, as shown on these slides, you will see there are a lot of companies and they are all competing for each other. So there's not a national monopoly. Unfortunately, not everybody on the EU level realized that yet, because we are, from the EU perspective, still regulated as if also the storage business would be a kind of natural monopoly. A lot of laws apply more or less one by one, or just with a little rewording for the pipelines business in the same way like for the storage business, on the EU level. On the national level, the view is quite different. Here I really have to say that the regulator realized that there is competition in storage market. So on the Slovak side, there are clear rules to make sure that there's non-discriminatory access to the storages, which is important. But price regulation for the storages was cancelled, and I think that's a very wise decision, because those storages are essential for the gas market, like bread and milk are essential products. But there's competition and there's no price regulation for bread and for milk. And there's also no price regulation for storage in this region any longer in Slovakia, and I think that's a very fair and realistic view on the market. Also, the regulator on the Austrian side is realizing that there's what the, let's say, functioning for the storage in the market is. So now I break my promise, I show you a fourth slide. If you see that our storage is also directly connected to the Austrian market with a storage pipeline which is crossing the border, you can see that when the Austrian regulator is now introducing an entry-exit system for the Austrian market, of course for us as Slovak storage operator it was a key question, will there now be a kind of entry-exit barrier between our storage and the Austrian market? And the answer was no, there's no barrier between our storage and the Austrian market, so our storage is not only located and linked to the Slovak system, but starting with 1st of January 2013, we will also be connected directly to the Austrian market as if we would be located in Austria. So also here I have to say that the regional regulator, this time on the Austrian side, very good understood the specifics of the storages in this region and realizes that our storage is not only just backing Slovakia, but it's an essential tool for security of supply in this region. So, take from my presentation these three messages. Storage business is about flexibility. Storage is infrastructure, but it's not a national monopoly. And NAFTA is a reliable and flexible storage operator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very short but very impressive presentation. Now we have time for questions, answers. First, Michael.
Thank you so much for excellent presentations. I have two brief questions. One question, I don't know, maybe Mr. Butoshi or my friend Rafał Wittmann. We received very interesting information concerning progress of Świnoujście LNG terminal, but we don't know what progress around Kka Island LNG terminal. I'm afraid it's not so fine as a Polish case. And other question to Mr. Cliffus, what capacity of future overcoupled connection? Thank you.
Well, I understand that I'm supposed to answer the question to the what happens to the Kirk terminal, yeah? Is that correct? Yeah. Well, I'm afraid that I'm not in the position to answer this question. We met 2 months ago in Bratislava, in Prague, or in Vienna, together with Mr. Goran Francic, who was formerly responsible for that project, and he said that the project is being reorganized now. So they originally planned 15 BCM LNG terminal, what the RW was also part of the project, was never commenced. So I understand that it's been always discussed and still being on the paper somewhere. But the small project, I think, is progressing. At least this is what we had from the Croatian friends, that they are preparing themselves for the small and step-by-step approach. So they are going to develop first the offshore regasification vessel, I think, and then they will go for the installation of the storage tanks, onshore tanks, if they are required. But what is the actual progress of this? Sorry, I don't have the information, the updated information for now.
So with regard to Oberkappel, we are currently in this study group where we are looking what are the benefits and what are the necessities in order to link the markets, Austria, Slovakia, Czech Republic. We believe that roughly a capacity of 10 to 15 million cubic meters a day, so 4 to 6 BCM somehow, would be sufficient in order to bridge these two markets. But that need to be, calculated on the real demand. We've done an open season. We did a project together with 5 TSOs, with Bayernetz, with Tauern pipeline, the pipeline going from Austria across the Alps to Italy, with the Slovenian TSO. And at that time there was a good interest in Tauern pipeline. But of course there was no interest to go from Czech Republic to Austria. Why? Because the large market participants have all the capacities they need to supply their customers. And of course nobody in this today's world is willing to invest into this liquid market in the future. So which means, and this is part of the whole discussion which we're having, we need to talk about new financing models, because open seasons on larger projects fail. Even the Hungarian project is financed by the EU. So all large infrastructure which we have built in the last 10 years has been financed outside the normal regulation with exemptions. So be it the LNG terminals, so be it the BBL interconnectors, so be it Nord Stream, OPAL, our Gazelle, you name it. All these large projects cannot be financed by the shippers anymore, because as unbundled companies, they cannot take a long-term view anymore. And if there is more liquidity, then of course the contracts shall be shorter, and of course the TSO is not able to finance them for 100, 200, 300 million euros such projects. So which means, again, here need to be taken a longer view to say, well, what is now the financing model? And if you take an example, what we're saying is, if we build a pipeline between Austria and Czech Republic, it's a 100 million euro project. You depreciate this over 50 years, you have 2 million depreciation, 10% rate of return, you're talking about 10 million altogether depreciation plus maybe a rate of return. 10 million to be split between Austrian, German and Czech market. Immediately you would have and foster market integration, which is not done if you wait for the market to come. So I think here is something, if you have regulated the market so far by now, then I think you also have to jump the next step if you want to really achieve it. And that is, unfortunately, then socializing it. But at the same time, if this gives a price difference lower than €1, then of course it has an economic value for all for all markets.
Okay, next question. Or remark. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Igor, and I want to ask if is it possible to use pipelines and storage spaces to storage and transport the hydrogenium in the future, not now, but in 50 years or maybe more. Thank you very much.
Maybe try this. In the first place, I don't believe that we should use our pipes for hydrogen. I think the first solution we can offer is feeding the hydrogen into our gas stream. And with today's specification, up between 5 and 10%, you could feed hydrogen into the gas stream. If if you go beyond, this has huge implications. Mainly it's about the burners of the households, and everything need to be adjusted. And the other thing is, of course, hydrogen has a much higher calorific value, and the risk of explosion and whatever safety reasons, you need to totally adjust the whole system. In TSOs you may do it, but without going into the DSOs, you need totally different safety standards. But I think if you talk about power to gas, the first step is let's try to find 5% hydrogen volumes and feed this into larger gas streams, and I think then you can already achieve and store enough energy already.
Okay.
Maybe I can add from the storage side. With biogas we have a problem because there comes along with the gas also other components which may destroy the geological structures which you are using. As long as we are speaking about kind of pure gas, maybe methane, maybe hydrogen, from the storage side that should be possible.
Next question? No? Lunch is coming. Okay. Thank you very much, our panelists. Thank you very much, our audience.